It's Monday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. But before we say hello, today is Nima Akasha Zibiri's 40th birthday.
Wow.
Welcome to the fourth floor, Alaja Nima Akasha Zibiri.
Happy birthday, Nima. Nima is a problem solver par excellence. Like, if you are facing something, just call Nima. Nima's stomach is paining me. She'll tell you, Nima, last month just stopped me. She's your plug. Nima, there's a legal challenge. She's your plug. Like, Nima, I was going to do my birthday 3 years ago. And like a week to the birthday, I felt I should give away shoes. Just randomly. I just called Nima. I need to give away 100 shoes. You need to help me to get these shoes from trade fair or something. Next thing, send money. That was how she got someone.
Sorted.
And it was sorted. That is, thank you for being such a person
resourceful
to all of us, being resourceful. And I pray that God will send more help your way and in any time of your need, generation to generation. Thank you. God bless you.
Nima is just so amazing. I call her Miss Fix-It. She fixes everything, you know, and she feels you like it's whatever you're going through, like she's the one going through, energetic and just a wonderfully kind, sweet person. Annoying, but, you know, we know that deeply she's just a lovely person. So happy birthday, sis. We love you. We wish you so many blessings. You deserve, you know, all the good things of life, and I know that you celebrate many more years to come in abundance.
Amen.
Happy birthday, Nima. I always tease that there's no story you want to do. Somebody went to Mars. Nima has an uncle that's been to Mars. There's no issue you want to raise. Nima knows somebody that something has happened. And she will give you the story and she'll give you accurate facts. Say Nima, you could sing a tone more. Anyway, good. Well, let me come to them. Have you done your banter?
Yeah.
Yes, you are going through.
Yeah. So yesterday evening, my mother-in-law passed at 83.
Oh, wow.
Yes, she had a good life, and I just feel very blessed, you know, because just last week we were having a conversation somewhere about mother-in-laws and the challenges of mother-in-laws, and I'm like, I can't relate. Honestly, I had an amazing mother-in-law. I remember my mother-in-law teaching me how to make black soup the original way, telling me how to, not to brag, but she just felt like I just gave birth. So she made it for me and said after she has gone back, she's so sweet, she's so giving, and she raised amazing boys. Yeah. All of us wives married to Odige would say that we have good husbands, and obviously we can trace it to the kind of mother-in-law we had. So
I think it's had all boys though, until...
Yeah, so 4 boys.
Oh, wow. I shall expect one more boy from you.
No, God bless you. Sunre, that's the only way I can say it. Mama comforts Odige.
Damola, how you doing? How was your weekend?
I'm very well. Okay, even though you didn't tell me to give a shout out to Nima.
I haven't met her.
But,
yes, but I'm so glad to hear, you know, really great things about her, and I'm looking forward to meeting you. So happy birthday! And then for my week, I was having an amazing week until I fell on my staircase. Yes, and I've been limping, you know, just trying to recover. And it just reminds me of the promise I made to myself to insure my legs. Yeah. So, yes, because, you know, they are really precious to me. So I think I should revisit that promise.
Yeah, Tina did her, so you might as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
how you doing, Maya?
Tina passed. What did she get for the legs? Like, will you get like millions of dollars?
No,
Let us know what
to me.
While you're alive, I think.
Yes.
What will happen? You get money or...
You get money, exactly, to take care of yourself.
Sis, can we insure something? Can we insure our hands?
If it's precious to you, you can insure it.
How you doing?
I'm good. I was a bit down last week, but I'm getting better. So I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, Saturday. I know I had an event, Father in Heaven, yesterday. Oh, yeah.
You had a speaking...
I was at 2 events, FRSC on Saturday. I was there, one of the celebrity marshals, I believe.
Yes.
I went there to speak. I shared about my accident. And also, Winfrey had a pageant conference, which is really Winfrey on Wake Up Nigeria. She was a former most beautiful girl in Nigeria, and she had this platform where beautiful girls come and then just to have a conversation concerning pageantry in Nigeria. I think it was a fantastic conference. And then on Sunday, I was invited to Christchurch at Marina. Hey, the cathedral. In fact, I need to just go back there because I loved the service. I loved the interior. I loved the entire procession. I just loved the orthodoxness.
And there was history to that building.
Yeah, the history. I just felt really honored to be there. I mean, thank you very much for the invitation. I have to thank Chief Mrs. Dr. Phillips, that invited me over. Thank you so much. Okay, it's Monday. Let's go on a break. When we come back, we have to go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're going to start with the nation. Niger junta leader now ready for dialogue with ECOWAS. Nigeria records first minimally invasive heart surgery. Shareholders, Otudeko behind court order stopping FBN AGM. NJC still in charge of CJ's appointments. CBN liabilities may worsen forex volatility. Akure Ado road project fails to take off 3 months after. Akeredolu will return soon, says Ondo government. Okay, which story? Should we start with the major headline? So the door may have been opened to a peaceful resolution of the standoff between ECOWAS and the Niger military junta. The junta leader, General Tichiani, has succumbed to economic pressures and threats to military action by the regional body. According to the reports here in Nation, he had initially rejected efforts and rebuffed offers for talks and delegations. If you recall, back in July 26, President Patrice Talon of Benin Republic was sent, even allowed the man to land in the airspace. And then delegation sent by the chairman of ECOWAS, our president, high-power delegation, was made up of former head of state, General Busalami, and others. They also didn't get access until the former emir of Kano, Mohammed Sanusi, was able to see him on his own personal capacity. And he returned to brief the president. And since then, they've been going back and forth. But recently, there was another delegation that was sent to him where they were able to have access to the junta. And he apologized for all what he has been doing and not allowing them to have a dialogue, and said that he met with Nigeria's intervention team and said that he will be willing to dialogue with ECOWAS. So that's a good step in the right direction. And we're hoping that there'll be a peaceful resolution very soon in the Niger. Any other story in the nation?
Yes, definitely. Ado-Ekiti Road. So the nation is reporting the fact that 3 months after the launch of the reconstruction of the dualization of Ado-Akure Road, the contractors handling it have not started work yet. They had re-awarded the contract. Initially had been given to Dantata and Showe by the federal government, but now they re-awarded it to 2 companies. They awarded it to Samches Nigeria Limited and Copec. They divided the path they are going to follow. This project is meant to be funded by the NNPC Limited as the tax credit policy from the federal government. An investigation is showing that the company, Copec Construction Company, handling the road project from Ado to Ekiti boundary, is yet to mobilize to site due to non-release of advanced payments by the federal government. The reporter was saying that sources within Copec told them that even though the project had been launched and the contract had been awarded, they had not been given money, that they started preliminary work based on their own funding to provide a bit of palliative to make the place motorable because it is extremely in a bad state, but there is no funds. And because funds was not released, they haven't been able to do the work. And there are many roads across Nigeria like that they've been awarded, but they didn't give them money. So Nigerians are complaining about what's going on. Please release the money. This is from NNPCL, supposed to go to them because it's a tax rebate.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I have this amazing story. So it says Nigeria's first ever minimally invasive open heart surgeries have been carried out by a private hospital here in Lagos. The operations were coronary artery bypass grafting, CABG, off-pump and mitral valve replacements. Both were done without big cuts on the chest of the patients. In fact, one of the patients is an 81-year-old woman who needed a valve replacement. So what makes this really amazing is usually for this sort of treatments, we would go abroad, you go to the West, you go to India for it, but we are able to do it here in Nigeria. So a renowned cardiologist and professor of medicine, Kamara Adeleke, was the one that was speaking to journalists about this. And he says that we're now using techniques that have never, ever been used in Nigeria. And that another thing is that these operations were carried out while the heart was still beating.
Wow.
So they didn't have to put you... So amazing, well done, and it's something we should be proud of and celebrate.
okay. So the Ondo State government is reacting to the viral video of Governor Akeredolu being back, to his office. So they are saying that he's yet to return from his medical leave, and the viral video, that showed the governor coming down from a helicopter was taken during the presidential elections, and it's an old video, and we should disregard any posts on social media saying welcome back governor, but then they're looking forward to having the governor back very soon so he can continue his good works according to the Ondo State government. Okay, moving on quickly to the Punch. Forex crisis, marketers propose 720 naira to the litre, suspend fuel imports. Picture again, Niger junta bows to pressure, demands meeting with ECOWAS. ICPC grills a Greek ministry officials over massive fraud. CCB shuns request on Tinubu Shetima's assets. Jebu manipulated youth council poll for selfish reasons, says Obaseki. CBN staff loans jump by 113%, hit 40 billion naira. Niger, PDP, NLC, Bakari, Kaigama oppose military action. And military pledges loyalty to Tinubu, backs democracy. Okay, which story are we starting with in Punch? Okay, I'll start with Niger. PDP, NLC, Bakari and Kaigama have opposed the military action. So as we know, the coup that's happened in Niger, and we know the stance, that ECOWAS is taking under the chairmanship of with our president being the chairman, and that is, military action. But we have a lot of people who are saying that they don't think this is the best way to go about it, and dialogue should be the way. And some of those who are speaking, we have the presidential candidate for Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi. He's urging ECOWAS to embrace dialogue instead. We also have the PDP, as well as the Catholic Archbishop of Abuja Diocese, Ignatius Kaigama. He's faulted the planned military action also against the junta. So we just have a lot of people who are saying that this is not the best way to go about it, and that's it. Okay, let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue with our review. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still reviewing Punch. Let me take the ICPC story. So about 5 senior officials of the Farm Input Support Service at the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development were arrested yesterday by the ICPC. They were said to have been arrested about 9 a.m. In Abuja yesterday. It was learned actually last week, on Thursday actually, in a sting operation. It was learned that ICPC had detained 4 of these officials, but later released them. But they are actually being accused of diverting 200 million naira, which was meant for and hampering the monitoring and evaluation of farm inputs. Remember, we say we have all these great ideas of government providing subsidy for this, providing grains and stuff. When government does that, there's supposed to be an independent group organization to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of these things. Now, these guys, obviously, based on this ICPC report, they have diverted 200 million that was meant for that. So they were arrested yesterday, and according to them, over 250 million naira cash was found in the Abuja house of one of the suspects. Investigation by the ICPC detectives revealed that inflow of about 60 million in 6 months into the account of one of these. So
we the people.
We the people again. So all these great initiatives. Who's going to? Who is
one person with 250 million?
Nigerians. Yeah. We keep saying this thing, but we actually, let's move on.
So, in the wake of the coup in Niger, the military, Nigerian military, have come out to say that they are pledging their loyalty to democracy, and they do not have any plans to topple the government, and that we should ignore all the news and rumors all over the social media saying that they received a request to topple the government based on the allegation that the military is not receiving proper welfare. So they have come out to, show their commitment to the government and to say that they are comfortable and we should, the people who are spreading this news are people who do not wish the nation well.
Yeah.
So AFN is comfy with democracy and remains loyal to Nigeria.
Please, I need to tell the story about the CBN. So 7 years consistently, the CBN has reduced their inflow, their income as CBN has reduced. There was a sharp decline between 2016 and 2022 in profit, and the loan being collected by staff within CBN has jumped by over 37%. In just 2022, staff loan hit 40 billion naira within CBN. CBN itself was earned in 2022 a total of 520 billion was earned in 7 years, but what was spent on paying staff was over 1 trillion. So as an institution, CBN is not profitable. CBN is over-bloated and spending more money than it is earning. And all of this happened under the within the 7-year period, according to the report which was vetted by KPMG and Ernst Young. It was signed off by Godwin Emefiele. The audit was signed off. But to think that an institution, when other financial institutions are profiting and declaring profit, this particular one is spending so much money on staff, and yet the staff are collecting loans to the tune of 40 billion.
Let's move on quickly now to Daily Sun. Niger Republic coup leaders open up. Igbo town unions urge Tinubu to free Kanu in line with court judgment. Bakare attacks APC and Tinubu. Hoodlums raise monarch's house, vehicles in Imo.
Wow.
Niger PDP accuses APC government of dragging Nigeria to needless war. Naira, CBN spent 155 billion naira on the RT200 and naira for dollar in 2 years. Anambra bans advertisements of traditional medicine. Drug barons, 4 kingpins arrested as NDLEA busts 3 syndicates in Lagos. And Abia bans Okada, Keke in Umahia and Aba. Okay, each story starting in Daily Sun. So let me start with the meeting that's going to be happening very soon. So ahead of the proposed visit to Aso Villa by the national president of the Association of Igbo Town Unions, Chief Emeka Diwe, he has called on the president to release the leader of IPOB, that's Nnamdi Kanu. They plan to meet the president, and I think also all the various governors of the Southeast governors and other Igbo stakeholders plan to meet the president very soon. Leaders of the region had at a meeting in Abuja on July 10th resolved that a high-powered Igbo delegation will meet the president to discuss on the immediate and remote causes of as the viable solutions to the insecurity in Southeast. Diwe said Kanu's release was long overdue and therefore should be based purely on judicial merits. So the meeting they're going to be having with the president, this is going to be topping the conversation they hope to have with the president. And he listed Nigerians from other tribes who had committed various crimes and were detained but released on mere political considerations. He opined that the continued incarceration of Kanu is just because he's Igbo, stating that it further shows the level I'm just trying to choose the words carefully. I don't want to use the exact words he said, but obviously he's just trying to appeal to the president that ahead of their meeting coming up, Nnamdi Kanu is key on the top of the list of the conversation. Okay.
OT bans operation of commercial motorcyclists. So the governor of Abia State, Dr. Alex Oti, has directed the immediate ban on the operation of commercial motorcyclists, otherwise known as Okada, within the Umuahia. You get it, Sha. A statement by Kaze Oko, who is the chief press secretary to the governor, said this yesterday, and they're saying that this directive takes immediate effect. They haven't given any reason as to why they are banning the motorcyclists, but I guess it's for security issues,
So I have Anambra State. So the government is also banning all forms of open advertisement of herbal medicines in the state. So the Commissioner for Information has said that has directed that all advertisements for herbal drugs must be approved by the Office of the Special Advisor to the Governor on Herbal Medicine and Pharmaceuticals before they could be displayed in any public space or media platform. They talk about that these herbal medicines, usually anything from botanicals and everything like that, but they also use the word agbo, which I found interesting because it's an Igbo state. I thought they would have a different name for it. They say a lot of people use it. But the reason why this notice has become imperative is that there's so many diseases right now and illnesses, especially kidney failures, that they're dealing with, and it can be traced to the use or misuse of agbo. So it's important that it is regulated, and so anyone cannot just put up advertisements for these herbal medicines anymore. They have to go through the government, you know, and to be approved. And it makes sense, but I feel that don't these agbos have NAFDAC numbers? It should not just be an office in the government house that will give you approval. It should also be checked by NAFDAC, SON, before we start giving Nigerians this.
There are speculations that you can
Let me take
a NAFDAC number now.
Still on Sunday?
Wow. Yeah, within the insecurity, I'll take it very fast. Insecurity challenges being faced in the southeast. There is another arson that took place in Imo State, the monarch. The previous monarch, there was an arson that happened. Then the new Eze-elects of Osu Hitekwa hoodlums on Wednesday night stormed the country home of the traditional ruler of NDLEA, Arodezogu community in Idiato local government area of Imo State, and they razed the building of Eze Kanu. And the way it happened was they threw in explosives into the compound, which resulted in the building being razed and all the vehicles there being razed as well. They said investigation is going on speedily to find out who are the people that did this, but there's been a lot of fear and panic within the community as people are now currently living within the bush because they don't know what's going to happen next within the society.
Vanguard, our last paper for this morning. Let's find a story we've not taken. Subsidy removal, kill corruption, not Nigerians. Buhari tells Tinubu. How man killed his two nieces in Ogun Bush, actually. Serap sues Akpabio Abbas over the plans to spend 110 billion naira on exotic cars and others. Fresh fuel price hike looms as landing cost rises by 37%. Why I was retired as Perm Sec at 48, says Oyegun, ex-APC chairman. And NJC denies ceding powers on judges' appointments and promotions of governors. Okay, which story are we taking in Vanguard? Let me find the story. So Akim, that's his surname withheld, has been arrested by operatives of Ogun State Police. The suspect, according to the PP, Aro Omolola Odutola, was arrested on Sunday at the Shagamu Ijebu-Ode Benin Expressway. He said that the fingered one police inspector, simply identified as Ola, as the one who sold guns used in robbery operations in his gang. The armed robbery suspect was arrested following the 24-hour operation led by the area commander in that area. The statement reads, Akim, 33 years old, was sighted in the Toyota Camry, driving inward Ijebu-Ode, and he diverted into a close. The suspect, who disguised himself as a vigilante group uniform, he had a vigilante group uniform, was the mastermind for several nefarious crimes, and attempted to outsmart the policeman, but was arrested. And then he said that he buys the weapons from police officers within the state.
Please let me take the story of the Pastor Tunde Bakare is talking about the president. He's a member of EPC and he was a presidential aspirant. He's saying that Mr. President, according to him, though has announced some palliatives to ease the burden of Nigerians, is not addressing the real issue, that is the root cause cannot be addressed with palliative. He said that the allegations, even if the allegations are valid, which is that they are dealing with corruption, is putting a lot of burden. The reform is putting burden on the people, that it should kill corruption and not the people. It should go after corporations and individuals who have plundered our nation. And it can decide today to stand with the poor and fight the plunderers of Nigeria. He also mentioned that the government, people voted for him. He came on the wings of integrity and anti-corruption And right now, it cannot be described as such because the policies have put a lot of burden on the citizens and the poor rather than the people, the few who have plundered the wealth of Nigeria.
Okay, let's go on a break. When we come back, we're continuing with the show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. Last week, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, ordered its standby force to restore constitutional order in Niger Republic. However, Nigerians actually are rebuffing the plan of the heads of state of the ECOWAS to deploy soldiers in Niger Republic to oust the military junta, although it was just their own actually called on standby. Joining us on the show right now, especially to review the updates, is the permanent representative of Nigeria to the United Nations office and other international organizations at Geneva, Ambassador Humphrey. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good to have you. Good morning. So the whole of last week the conversation was about the fact that the military had been put on red alert to be on standby in case of a need for an offensive. However, over the weekend, the junta had offered some dialogue, opportunity to dialogue. What do you make of this new development?
Thank you so much. I think the dialogue we are talking about now is what should have preceded all of these events once the coup took place in Niger. The rubber settling, the saber rattling was not necessary. And the sanctions and stuff imposed seem to have come ahead of any discussions. So right now, it appears sanity is returning on both sides, the sides of the coup makers, and rational thinking seems to have taken over in the ECOWAS heads of authority. So we are looking forward to peace, stability, security in Niger, because the West African sub-region really cannot afford another military conflict at this time. So it's a good development. We need to see where it is going.
Well, as a follow-up to that, what do you think dialogue should entail? Because the junta is insisting on detaining the president, but we don't know what exactly do you think should be the compromise from ECOWAS' point of view. So what do you think the dialogue should look like?
You know, this dialogue thing has to have a certain dimension that is really new. I don't think that the emphasis of the ECOWAS should really be on releasing and reinstating President Bazoum to office as the leader of Niger Republic. That should be incidental. I think the ECOWAS thing should be thinking of conditions to restore democracy in that country. The thing that is new is, if you're looking at the Nigerian population and the reactions they have had since, you could see a lot of anti-French, anti-Western sentiments, being demonstrated in the streets of Niamey and everywhere else the people have come. So I think ECOWAS should be thinking of something to give to the young thugs who are making these coups, these young soldiers. There must be something they need, something they can give to the people who are already supporting this coup to say, yes, we prefer democracy, but there's something else we need. That thing they need will be ECOWAS and, in fact, the African Union sitting down, calling France to a sit-down, a negotiation on the terms on which these countries have been governed since after they gained independence.
Right.
Those 11 conditionalities under which these Francophone African countries have been operating, is it not long enough that these things are reviewed? Should France indeed not begin to think of allowing these countries, Francophone, West African, Central African countries, to really operate as strictly sovereign countries,
Right.
in charge of their own foreign policies, in charge of their own monetary and financial policies, in charge of their natural God-given resources?
Right.
Must everything be dictated for them from Paris?
Okay, let me get a few more questions
Probably
in for you.
that's what the...
Go ahead, Toko.
Ambassador,
I think that's what the ECOWAS should be concentrating upon.
Ambassador, I love the fact that you're taking us to deal with the fundamental issues, and it's been an educative conversation for the Nigerians who are just looking at it from the fact that, oh, there's a coup, we want peace, we are doing business with them, to analyzing the issues that led to this coup and how ECOWAS should play in this space. Based on your insight and based on the challenges that led to the coup in the first place, how do you feel the ECOWAS leadership should address the concerns? Should we just tell, obviously, you already told us at the beginning of that we shouldn't say they should reinstate. How do you think we can intervene with Francophone countries in ECOWAS to help them find a long-term peaceful solution in their relationship with France?
In fact, that indeed is the crux of this whole matter. I believe that if France comes to the negotiating table with the ECOWAS and the African Union, and they agree to begin to treat these countries as sovereign countries, remove all conditionalities that tend to suggest that neocolonialism, in fact, some people would call it harsher names, that neocolonialist tendencies are removed from the governance, the relationship between Paris and these Francophone countries in West Africa and Central Africa. Then ECOWAS would have achieved something which we should have achieved so many decades ago when we say that Africa has come of age. Africa coming of age means independence in its true sense, and not just sovereignty in name, while the real power and the exercise of authority resides in another country's capital. I will give you a clear example. In 2020, after almost 3 decades of negotiations, ECOWAS heads of state had agreed that the ECO, the sub-regional currency of ECOWAS, was to be launched. And you can imagine the amount of economic development and progress, a common trading currency, in settling debts and settlement of trade issues in the sub-region would amount to. In fact, some estimates think this could improve trade in West Africa and beyond for over 40% of what exists now. But on the very brink of launching the ECO. France intervened, and the ECO has not seen the light of day since then. Wow. The CFA franc was renamed the ECO, and it's not even functional as a currency to serve the West African countries.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, sir. So as it looks now, it's looking like it's the inability of African government to deliver true dividends of democracy is the real cause of the recurrent coups that we've seen on the continent. What is your take on this system of government? Do you think it should be modified and tailor-made for, the African continent instead of just totally, adopting the Western way of democracy?
In fact, that's another dimension to the problems that ECOWAS and the African Union face. The thing that the African Union started called peer review mechanism is simply not working. Take a look at what is happening in every country. We talk of democracy, but what is dividends for the people? Democracy is not supposed to mean poverty. It doesn't supposed to mean lack of health care facilities, lack of educational facilities, lack of access to all the fundamentals of life. So, African countries remain at the bottom of the global rung of poverty and disease and want. Those are the fundamental things that a true democracy is supposed to deliver to its people. As for copying Western democratic principles and values verbatim, that's a debate that has been on for a very long time. We don't need to do that. Take a look at the issue of human rights. Yes, the Western society can tolerate something like LGBT, this lesbian, but in African culture, that cannot fit into any democratic model that African countries and African peoples would accept. So yes, there is need. Even in Nigeria itself, where we are said to have copied the American presidential system, it is damn too expensive. And the costs of running this version of democracy for a poor African country does not justify it as something we should adopt exactly the way it is run in America. So yes, there is need for African countries to review the content of the democracy we are running.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, sir. Also, I feel that we should also look at the dilemma that ECOWAS is in right now. It's one thing to say that, as you've discussed all the issues with democracy as is being practiced here in Africa and the benefits or non-benefits thereof. But we have accepted, I believe, as a continent that democracy is the way to go. We feel that regular Africans can still get, human rights and all the benefits that should come with it, even though we have issues with how it's run right now. Are we saying that ECOWAS should not take any stance in entrenching and instilling democracy across Africa, or West Africa, I mean, because of how it is badly run or because of the issues thereof? Is democracy the issue, or is it just corruption and we need to work on that?
Actually, there are two elements in this. The content of the democracy we have chosen to run, that is one. We have described its shortcomings. Some of it has to do with the corruption you have mentioned. Some of it has to do with the desperation with which office seekers tend to come to office. So the process of democracy needs a revisit, because elections have to, in a proper democracy, that is, elections have to actually reflect the true wishes and choices that people make. That is one aspect. The other aspect is the content which you have described. If you bring very extraneous measures, like take a look at the income divide between elected and appointed political officials and the population itself, you see a very huge gap. You find it so difficult to justify, say, somebody taking home 10 million naira in a month, and those who work morning till night every day cannot take home 20,000 naira in the same month. That gap is, if it is democracy, it is a wrong application of democratic values. Yes, those are some of the elements that get people riled up. And if the military takes over, they are very happy to come on the street and say, no.
Okay,
you can't do this.
Let me go on a very short break. When we come back, we continue this conversation with the ambassador. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have our guest, Ambassador Jeffo, here with us. Sir, you said earlier something about the fact that the dialogue we're expecting to happen soon shouldn't necessarily involve the reinstatement of the deposed president of Niger. However, do you think if they consider that, the body language, therefore, of ECOWAS would be like they are validating a coup, or they're saying it's okay for you to remove the president undemocratically? I mean, for them to actually make it look at it is fine for a country to go ahead to have a coup to remove a president. Don't you think that would totally invalidate the entirety of democracy?
No. Thank you for having me back. I did not actually say that the idea of restating the president, the ousted, should be off the table. I simply said it should not be the top priority, should not be the main focus. The main focus should be the return of democratic rule in Niger Republic. And the way that could be is put it in focus that ECOWAS wants to be a democratically governed region. Already you have Mali, you have Burkina Faso, you have Guinea, where governments have been removed and some form of military administration is taking over. Which means that it is not only Niger. These other countries also have to return to democratic rule. So placing democracy ahead of the individual is more important than simply insisting that the removed president must be returned to power as a precondition for democracy to reign in Niger Republic.
Okay.
That is the difference there.
Right.
So the state is more important than any individual.
All right.
Okay, so...
in a democracy, yes.
Ambassador, I wanted to ask you, thank you for going into what my question was going to be around the fact that we've had Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, and now Niger. These are 4 countries that are within West Africa, and they have all gone through military coup. But if we look at what has happened in Mali, we look at what has happened in Burkina Faso and Guinea, it hasn't brought about any form of peace or stability to the people. We've actually had increase in violence and increase in economic crisis and insecurity within those countries. So would you say, and I remember when we were talking to, we had a conversation last week, in the interview, the answer of why we should make, Nigeria is asking ECOWAS should make a more serious move was because probably if we had made a more serious move when one of the other 3 countries had gone through a coup, we probably wouldn't have it continue like that. So, 1, are we doing this to stem the consistent flow of coups? 2, do we want to have what is happening in Mali, where we're having more warlords and people have become, they've been unable to institute democracy. Do we want to have that so close to the Nigerian border? And what would you say the military intervention should look like in ensuring there is peace within Niger?
In fact, I can say this upfront. For as long as these contradictions exist in our democracy, in our governments, the chances of coups of some form of anomy taking place in these countries is virtually guaranteed. Coups are not the solution to these problems we have in Africa. But those fundamental issues should be addressed. And I think ECOWAS is up to the stage in which it should begin to address the real underlying causes of coups. What prompts young people to feel so disconnected with government, so disenchanted with the system that they want change and they want it now? We have enumerated some of them.
Sir,
we do not think. Go ahead.
Is it really the young people that are wanting this or their influences? Because we're hearing there are influences from other developed countries, from the West, some countries in the West that are funding this crisis that is consistently happening within West Africa.
You know, it's a bit of an irony to say that 60 years or more after independence, a country of people who are informed and exposed to the very complexities of modern society are still subject to being teleguided by foreign powers and foreign agents to destabilize their own societies and their own countries. Who wants to do that? Who wants to do that? So even if there are foreign agents and elements who wish to destabilize African countries, they have an objective, they have a purpose. That purpose is to destabilize us and then exploit us. It is not to help us. So it doesn't become anyone who wants to be a leader to say he's influenced by France or by America or by China or by anybody else to disrupt and destabilize his own country so that those countries could come and have their way. So much as that happens, that is the business of government to ensure that those loopholes which detractors exploit in order to persuade the population to rise up against government, they are closed and covered up. So at this stage, we can no longer accept these excuses of, foreign elements and foreign influence and the interventions are the reason for all of this.
All right.
Yeah. Sir, so now, my question is, I'm a regular Nigerian living in my house quietly. All of a sudden, Niger is all over the news, you know. And as a regular Nigerian, I'm going through issues already in my country with Boko Haram, all sorts of insurgencies and crime, economic crisis as well. Why isn't the way to address it be shut the borders and focus on my country and we'll move on? fortify my country as much as I can militarily around the border and move on. How would that work for us as a country or work against us?
No, you'll be dreaming of a life that doesn't exist anymore. Some kind of fortress Nigeria, in which the things you do in Nigeria are autarkic. Nigeria produces everything it consumes. We had that kind of argument. Nigeria is totally self-dependent on this. I can tell you, there's no country in the world that can live like that. Even the very practicality of it, if there was any benefit in any autarky, how would you achieve it? Between Niger and Nigeria, you have something over 1,000 miles of border, something like that. How would you make that closure? Moreover, countries do not become prosperous. They do not become stable or secure simply because they shut themselves in. No, that is why you have diplomatic relations with other countries. That's why you need the understanding that exists between countries in terms of trade, in terms of investment, in terms of doing business. In other words, what we want is a relationship with other countries that is mutually beneficial to both participants. And I can tell you, in ECOWAS, contrary to what many people think and say, Nigeria has almost 400 farms, companies, corporations doing business in the West African sub-region. And Nigeria has over 10,000 goods in the West African sub-regional market.
Right.
And that is only the formal trade. That is only formal business. Nobody is taking account of the informal transactions. So if you close these borders and operate the Fortress America, the millions of people who depend on this relationship with other countries in the sub-region, how would they earn their living? How would they live?
Okay.
Right. So what lessons do you think our political leaders can take away from these recurrent coups happening on the continent? Is it a wake-up call to them to, do right? Because it's looking as though these coups are beginning to happen close to home. What lessons do you think our political leaders can take away from this?
In fact, I have opined elsewhere that this series of coups open a window of opportunity. Many people might find this shocking, but it opens a window of opportunity for African leaders in general, ECOWAS leaders in particular, to take advantage of this seeming state of anomy and chaos and go into serious introspection, ask themselves questions. Are we providing the leadership that our countries and our sub-region need? Or do we need to do some fundamental changes? First of all, in the content of our democracy, in the way we process democratic principles, and in the way we deliver the goods and services that a democratic country should provide to its people.
Right.
And the beginning of that could even be this conversation with a country like France, which we have said, I have heard some people say France should apologize to Africa for colonialism and neo-colonialist exploitation. But I don't think apologies are enough.
Right.
African leaders should grow the spine to make demands of former colonial countries who are still practicing neo-colonial governance of Africa. That's indirect rule of African countries, actually. To make, you want to call it reparations, but I will call it pay what they owe Africa.
All right, we have to wrap up, sir.
That takes courage. Yes.
We have to wrap up with you, but I must ask for your advice to the current president, because he's less than 3 months, and we're talking about economic crisis, removal of subsidy, floating of the naira, people are in hardship, and now there is our neighbors are having a coup, and he obviously there's a lot of pressure on him to, you know, to show leadership as the chairman of ECOWAS. You know, what would you think? What should his state of mind be at this time? Is it at this quick wins for him to, as a new president, or what do you think he should do in relation to relationships going forward?
In fact, the first thing I think the president must not do is allow Nigeria to be dragged into any military conflict, any military war, any military intervention or incursion into any other African country at this time. And the reasons are very simple. Actually, any offensive action in a country like Niger will boomerang so heavily on Nigeria, given that up to 9 states of Nigeria have their kith and kin in Niger Republic. And the ties between them is something nobody can shut down easily. That is one thing in the foreign policy area the president would not allow to happen. If there is any foreign push to start a military action in any African country, it should not be done, because we would not perceive it as fighting for the good of Nigeria or fighting for the good of Nigerians or ECOWAS. People will interpret it as fighting for the good of the West and France. That is one. In the domestic area, the issues are very clear. Before actions are taken on fundamental issues like removal of subsidies, whether from fuel or from foreign exchange and all of that, there is need for these things to go through those slow, bureaucratic processes, which ensure that, yes, actions may not be as fast as they could be, but the field of the unexpected consequences is reduced drastically when these things go through formal processing.
Yes, thank you so much. We've been speaking with Ambassador Ejiofor. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning, Ambassador Humphrey Ejiofor, the former permanent representative of Nigeria to the United Nations. We're going to go on a break now. When we come back, we continue with the show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. Recently, workers under the auspices of the Nigeria Labour Congress converged at Ikeja on the bridge in Lagos on Wednesday, August 2nd, demanding the implementation of a national minimum wage of 200,000 naira. The workers expressed their concerns over the soaring cost of living, highlighting the devastating impact of hunger and deprivation on ordinary citizens. Joining us on the show right now is a senior lecturer, Department of Economics, University of Lagos, Monetary and Industrial Economist, a mathematician and a statistician as well, Dr. Babatope Oguni. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So, before we go into this issue of what labor is demanding, we discuss this issue of minimum wage all the time, and in the events of what's happening in Nigeria today, lots of people obviously are frustrated because of their inability to survive this new policy that the Nigerians are going through. In your view, how do you think that the country, how do you think the federal government can actually help to alleviate some of these issues that Labour is raising concerning minimum wage?
Yeah, thank you. I want to say that from the beginning, we encourage state operators to look at things in a way to really help all and sundry. But sometimes our opinion may not really give the needed approach on the part of the unions and on the part of the government. In some countries, it is expected that, look, the high rise of things will require that the government will have to revisit the pay packet. But then, at times, you see that when basic things are put in place, salary increase is not the solution to, to living well. Basic things, if they are there, if there's like good roads, energy supply, and all what have you, if they are in place, you will realize that the effect, the value of the little income being taken will be there. But when an ordinary person, an individual, is the local government, of his own household, then it becomes a problem where you generate light yourself, you generate water, or what have you. So these are the reasons why, in my own view, I know that for sure agitating for salary increase may not be the overall solution. And there are other issues that we will want to mention.
Okay.
Right. So the labor union is agitating for 200,000, for the minimum wage to be increased to 200,000 naira. So do you think that this is feasible, or it's just an anchor price, giving room for negotiations, such that when the government now starts negotiating, it comes down to the desired wage that they want?
Yeah, truly you have said it, and it's not attainable under this present condition, considering the large, civil service budget and all the rest. 200,000 to us today, if you look at the content and the value, it means nothing. By the time you run your daily distance, moving from Ojota to Yaba, if you have to run that trip 20 days in a month, the whole 200 naira is used up. Are you with me? But what we are saying is that, the government cannot afford it. And even the 30,000 that was, this thing last year, I'm not sure if some of the states, are
implementing it.
In fact, they can't. And that's the problem. So it's not attainable, and it's not feasible.
So concerning subsidy removal, at first a lot of people thought it would just be a, we all agree it should go, there's so much money spent there anyway. But since the removal, Nigerians have been facing economic crisis that has come as a consequence of it. So looking at it, in your opinion, what do you think we should have done differently? Should it have been kept, or is the best thing that we've done now is taking it out? And now that it's out, what have we done wrong? What can we do better to reduce the hardship on Nigerians?
Yeah, thank you, ma. I think what we are seeing today is similar to what have been in operation over the years. It's not possible for the state operators to just come up with a solution. They will only come up with a palliative. And when you say palliative, it's just like reading from the mind of medical practitioners. They say the real disease is not what they can heal immediately. They look at the basic symptoms and now face it. In that wise, you will see that government will still have to go a long way. It's not something that that could be done instantaneously. It's not what can be done immediately. It's a product of time. Removing subsidy is the best. And in my own opinion, it's still the best. Because the effect, those enjoying it are the, some set of people. It did not trickle down. But we made one mistake, or maybe the government should laugh, put some things in place before removing the... A good example is this transport services all over the country. We need it. There must, all over the world, go to Europe, go to America. You see government vehicle plying the roads and at a subsidized rate. And this will help the people. And as such, people will not feel the immediate impact as we are feeling it today. And this had actually caused a lot of inflation.
Okay.
So I listened to you, and I'll take you back to your first comment when we were starting this, which is that it is not a salary increase solution. It is about providing the core needs of Nigerians, because even if the government accepts what Labour is requesting for, which is increase in salary, Labour doesn't constitute majority of the workforce. The majority of Nigerians are not earning that salary, and they cannot get that increase, whichever way it happens. So in short-term palliative solution, what would you say are the key areas the government should address? Do you feel like the palliative the president reeled out in his former address already addresses the core needs of Nigerians, or do you think there's another approach you should have taken, and what would you advise?
Yeah. I want to say sincerely that palliative is a short-term, balm to cushion the effect. And it's not something that government can continue over the years. We must come to the realization of the fact that now, we have to address some things. If government had removed subsidy, we have to readdress some things in our own life. If some meetings or journeys are not important, people will have to readdress it. And it's coming to that. When you see the consumption, fuel consumption within the past 1 month, it has, gone down because people are now able to readjust in a way. And a situation like that will extend to the common people in a way. Because, for instance, if I have a meeting in my workplace and good enough, we're beginning to see a situation where, visual means are now being adopted mostly, because you cannot reach out to every meeting at all times because of the cost. So the same thing goes for everything we do. And in terms of our social life, we have to cut down on some excesses. Not every actual bill will have to, be accepted from friends and relations. And not, the type of schools that our children will have to. In those days, you go to government school. But now, if you cannot afford a private school, you go to public school. And live within your environment. Yes, you live within your environment. If you are living in Ojota and your child is schooling at Lekki, it's abnormal. It will just blow up your budget, and which is not necessary.
Okay, let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. All right, so I'm going to go to Damola who has a question. Go ahead, Damola, please.
Right, so considering, back to the issue of minimum wage, considering the size of the civil service, if the minimum wage is increased, do you think it would lead to loss of jobs if the government cannot afford to pay everyone?
Can I even add to that question? Because we know that even within the civil service, there are lots of people who have been earning salaries for years without doing any job. You know, we have people who've been working in the refineries. They've not sacked them. People working on that, the Ministry of, solid minerals. These are people that, for the most part, many of these ministries haven't really been functional, but they've been earning salaries and still bloating up our... So if we now increase the salaries, is that not even more detrimental to our, to the cost of governance?
Yeah, you see, like we earlier mentioned, that coming up with, you know, agitation regarding this salary increase is a good, in every society, people will want to get something better, and it's a normal thing. But considering the position and considering the where we are in the country, that 200,000 is not feasible. And I want to say that if it's being presented to the government, I'm not too sure if the government will be able to go beyond 50% of that amount presently. I'm not too sure if the government, you know, because other things will have to be taken care of. And our dependence on petroleum is costing a lot of things. And that is why you see today that at least one will expect that our earnings from that end should have, you know, changed, you know, the outlook of Nigeria today. But unfortunately, you know, other issues, corruption and related issues are not helped matter. And the government, the present government has a lot to do. The present federal government didn't have a lot to do. And as a matter of fact, I will only say that we have to be patient a bit, because we cannot expect the result to be instantaneous. Let's, you know, say, give a little time.
Okay.
Say maybe a couple of weeks, months, and let's see.
Right.
Not just say, oh, it won't work. We are hopeful that it's going to work.
Okay, let me take this call from David. I'll come to Marian. David, thanks for calling. You're live.
Okay, good morning, madam.
Morning.
Yeah, please, similar to what is going on now, what our guest is saying is very right. If the government, everything is place, even the proposal that the Labour pays to them of 200,000, if they should put it in 100,000, everyone will be living fine. And the BLT board, if they can reduce the price, rent, food, put everything in place, then everything will be good. Even if they pay 700,000, if everything is not put in place, the money will not still reach, and people will still be complaining and complaining and complaining. And they should also remember that it's not everybody that is civil servant. Stop some people that can't make 200,000 in a month. Where should they go? Stop business seller. Where should they go to? So the should help us to advise the president that if you look into every other thing, not only the civil servant area, the other aspects also in education. Everyone has not working for government.
Thank you very much, David. You're right.
Okay, so, you know, I'm quite also intrigued that Nigerians are not jumping on this $200,000, because I was going to...
Naira.
Naira, sorry. I was going to pull on my small economics background and say that usually if you were to do something like that, just inject that amount of money as wages into the economy, things will go crazy. First of all, prices of goods and services will go up. You know, what we're trying to avoid, we'll find ourselves
Will be worse off.
Yes, so I would like for you to explain to Nigerians who may think, oh, these people just don't want us to lounge or to have money in our pockets. They're hating on what they think NLC may be proposing, but could you explain to Nigerians how this can negatively impact us?
Yeah. I want to say categorically that when you agitate for much money, you are already devaluing your money. Indirectly. You are devaluing your currency. And look at what is happening today. Every day we talk about, you know, exchange rates. And at times you see this thing is a long-term problem. Let me say that we will be operating 2 markets. And when this government came to power, they said, no, let us, the strength of the middlemen are what is killing the country. It's not that, it's, they are in majority. And the idea of arbitrage is something that they have been enjoying. And as a matter of fact, they will want it to stop because they don't have, the government will have to do something about that. That's one. Number 2, talking about what the salary impact will have. You know, a lot. I want to start by saying that when there is inflation, a lot of things will happen. The value, the welfare of everyone is being, brought down. And not only that, some of our local, factories, will be less competitive because you are helping the imported goods in a way because they won't be able to cope.
Yeah.
The cottage factories we have cannot face the challenges because of cost.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, when there's a cost push inflation, you see people who have to be laid off and a host of other consequences.
All right, let me take this call. Emmanuel's been holding for a minute. Good morning, Emmanuel. I'm sorry for keeping you, Emmanuel. I apologize.
All right, please let me put this question to you. This morning, I took the story from Pastor Backfire, who is also involved in politics, talking about the way he felt the government should have addressed the corruption challenges. He was accusing the president of that his actions is killing Nigerians and not corruption, and that he should have gone for the big corporations that were involved in racketeering, that the one of taking advantage of the arbitrage in dollar. And many people have made a lot of money from it, and also facing those that took advantage of the subsidy to inflate the cost. And it seemed like that was the obvious thing that should have been done, but it wasn't. How do you think the present government could have addressed that particular part of the situation, which is dealing with the corruption in the system, as opposed to pushing it off into having Nigerians to deal with the challenge?
Yeah, maybe I overheard somewhere when Pastor Backfire was making the... You see, sorry to say, with due respect to the pastor, talk is sweet. It's, when you are not there, you don't know the enormity of what is on the head of those in government. And when you say some of these things, your followers are, they say, yes, that's the way it should be. We ask ourselves, do they follow the real trend in economic policies? There is no carpet law that will make, the government to deal with everything at the same time, everybody. It's a procedural, method that you take one step at a time. And if you are facing everything, you are not doing anything. So to say that go and arrest this, go and jail this, it's not the immediate solution. You must get your findings. You must be convinced that actually these people perpetrated that fraud and to what capacity. So it's not just waking up, oh, it's a thief. Somebody who stole 1 naira, it's a thief. And another person stole 1 million, it's a thief. So, you must do the investigation first.
Okay.
And I think that is what the government is trying to do.
I think I have another caller. Good morning. Thanks for calling. I do apologize. I don't know what's wrong with the phone lines. Emily had a question, please.
Right. So what strategies, because since the inception of this, minimum wage increase or cost of living going high, the government has been saying that they do not have enough money, to cater to, but then they would look into, they would review it. What strategies, what feasible strategies can you recommend to the government to help them, you know, find ways to raise the money to cushion this, to respond to this minimum wage issue?
Yeah, there are so many issues and many ways by which the government can address some of these things. You see, the cost of governance is so heavy. It's a known fact. In fact, look at a legislator who has over 100 advisors, special advisors. Then you ask yourself, how do you address that? And what will be their, you know, you will see that some of the activities and job of those assistants will be overlapping. There's no way you have 101 support staff. Their job will be overlapped. In another land and climb, you don't encourage that. And that is one. Number two, you see, there must be a kind of simple restructuring in the country. You know, the center is too heavy. Heavy. And the states, you know, are taking from the federal government. You know, if we restructure in a way, the state will be bold enough to take more and be able to help, you know, the situation. But everything is coming from the center today, and that is a big problem. So the government will have to restructure. It might not be a total one, but on the average, some areas will have to be, you know, given out to the state to carry out. And aside from that, the government will have to do a lot of enumeration. Because if they say the palliative is going, how many of us are sure of those who will take the palliative? You know, we don't have record. And the agents in between the government and the people are the ones that will siphon the money. It might not reach them.
Okay. Okay, so in response to, you know, where you started the conversation from about the government spending so much, but there are some who also argue that government is the highest employer of labor and government needs to spend to improve productivity. So how do you achieve that balance in ensuring that you are, you know, improving productivity and also managing costs?
And that is about our society. In other words, government will not bother, you know, employing people like that. We allowed if industries to grow, you know, create an enable environment for them. And these people are the people that will take care of the economy. Here, you know, sorry to say, in Nigeria, our, you know, secondary state is almost excluded. That is production level, where we say we manufacture, we do this. You will see that we are in between extraction and tertiary position. We deal mostly into buy and selling. But in the manufacturing sector, go to China, and that is why with the population, they are not really complaining about unemployment.
We have to wrap up now. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure having you on the show today. We'll be speaking with the senior lecturer, Department of Economics, University of Lagos, lecturer Dr. Babatope Oguni.
Thank you.
Pleasure having you.
Thank you for coming.
That is all we can take on today's show. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Thank you.